What separates the men from the boys? Arguably, it's a bike like this. The Ducati 748E model shown here. Now this particular bike came in three different models, the E, the R, and the S model. Um, the R and the S models were obviously upgraded and they came with a different wheel package as well. There was also a Neiman Marcus catalog edition which came in gray, but typically you would see these bikes in either red or yellow. So if you see bikes in any other colors than red or yellow, then they've been repainted, obviously. These bikes came stock with just about everything you could possibly want or need on a high-performance super sport mid-range motorcycle. Um, Brembo brakes, steering damper, um, fuel injected. Uh, and I guess the philosophy of Ducati was that, and I kind of agree with, I mean, if you have to use any more than two cylinders on a bike, well, of course, the Desmodromic being the exception to the rule, um, you were sort of wasting your time. But the fit and finish of this bike, the engineering, the aesthetics is just second to none. You have a wonderful blend of angular geometrical shapes with organic shapes. Now, the other thing that separates this bike from other bikes, or Ducatis from other bikes, is what's called the Desmodromic valve design. Illustrated here, you see the valve opening and closing on a cantilevered camshaft. And the philosophy behind this was to eliminate valve float. Now, this philosophy is not a new technology. It actually goes back to the 19th century, and I believe Mercedes-Benz actually implemented some of that technology on some of their earlier um, uh, engines. This is a conventional valve design here, where you have um, the stem of the valve attached to a spring, and it's pushed up and down, which opens and closes the valve um, from the tension on the spring. And then, of course, if you didn't have the high performance springs in your motor, or typically the stock springs in the motor on motors would cause valve float because a lot of riders would ride their motorcycles aggressively. So the philosophy to avoid that, particularly on the track, which is where you need the engine power all the time, uh, this is the philosophy that Ducati adopted, which has done very well for them. Most of this bike is pretty much stock. All of the engine components, exhaust, everything is all stock. The only thing you'll notice that's not stock is the Corbin seat. The left and right side rear view mirrors also had the integrated, were swapped out for the integrated turn signal indicators for this particular bike. The owner of this bike is actually the owner of this particular dealership. He collects Ducatis. I got to throw a leg over this. And for those of you who are wondering about this particular model, and even the 848, I would say that the 848 had a similar seating position, but the only thing I could compare this to with regards to seating position on the bike was a Honda CBR 600RR. I love the gauge and the instrument cluster on these bikes, the clocks on this bike. I just love the way it's laid out. Of course, they've gone to a more modern design with the LED readouts on the screen, but I'm a fan of the old clocks myself. But here you can see the turn signal indicator lamps integrated into the rear view mirrors. This is really a timeless motorcycle design. I mean, you could put this out there and someone would think it's a brand new motorcycle, um, you know, and nobody would be the wiser. But if you look at this, the components on this bike, they just spared no expense. They put all of the finest components on this bike: steering damper, the trellis frame, which saves a lot of weight. Now, again, I'm a relatively short guy, and I was able to put the balls of my feet, both feet, down, and I wasn't entirely uncomfortable. But it's very evident that this bike was really intended for aggressive riding and not like, your all-day jaunts. Although I've read some articles where guys actually don't mind riding them all day. I guess it depends on the type of rider you are. Um, but again, just a timeless motorcycle design. And the single-sided swing arm. I mean, everything you just want on a really nice super sport bike. And gosh, I mean, if you can find these, you can find them for less than $7,000. But here it is, the 2000 Ducati 748 E model.